What was the Clone Wars battle that scarred and permanently changed the mindset of Anakin Skywalker for the worst? Greetings, curious acolytes of the galaxy, and welcome back to our archives. Anakin Skywalker is a complicated person and an even more complicated Jedi. To the public, he is known as the hero of the Clone Wars. To the Jedi, he is known as the reckless one with a seemingly unlimited supply of luck. But to himself, Anakin knows the truth. Anakin is a damaged person, weak and fearful, a person who has been completely changed and shaped by his past traumas and experiences in the war. In the canon TV shows, we don't really get to see this part of Anakin very often, as he portrays himself as confident and driven in everything that he does. However, in Legends, specifically the Revenge of the Sith novelization and its accompanying comics, Anakin is portrayed much differently. He seems calloused, stoic, and even cruel at times. He'll put on a facade of confidence, but only a mask for his deep insecurity. In the Revenge of the Sith novelization, we get many expanded scenes of the events of the movie, as well as a unique look into the thoughts of this character. One thing that is repeatedly mentioned is that Anakin has never quite been the same since the Battle of Jabiim. The very mention of the planet of Jabiim carries an immense weight of grief, particularly for Anakin. So, come with us today and welcome to the archives as we open up a few wartime logs and journals to discover why Anakin Skywalker was forever changed by this battle. To start, we'll take a look at Obi-Wan's thoughts as he and Anakin are conversing back and forth in their starfighters during the Battle of Coruscant in a desperate effort to save the Supreme Chancellor. It says the following: Obi-Wan was hoping to hear some of Anakin's old cocky grin in his tone, but he never did. Not since Jabiim. Perhaps not since Geonosis. Anakin's own thoughts later reference Jabiim another 2 times, both of which are in reference to how much he has changed because of the things done to him, and the things that he had to do. So what happened on Jabiim specifically? The answer lies in issues 55 through 58 of the Star Wars Republic comic line. As we learn of exactly the events of Jabiim, it becomes more and more clear that this was perhaps one of the bleakest battles in all of the Clone Wars, and it happened when Anakin Skywalker was still just a Padawan. The battle takes place a couple of months after the Battle of Geonosis, when the war was still fresh, and Anakin hadn't yet had a whole lot of battlefield experience. The plot opens up on the stormy planet of Jabiim, where we find the Republic and a large group of Jedi locked in battle with the planet's native rebellion. We come to learn that the planet was divided politically by a man named Alto Stratus, who rose to power leading a rebellion of his own against the planet's leaders and executing most of them. The Republic loyalists that remained called upon the Republic for aid, as it became clear that Alto and his followers were planning on joining the Separatists, as their aims were compounded by Count Dooku, as he actively supported their emancipation, sending legions of battle droids to aid the Jabiim freedom fighters. The Republic responded in kind though, sending a force of Jedi, as well as clones, to fight alongside the Republic loyalists. It was also the perfect time for both sides to test out some of their new warfare weaponry. For the Republic, this included the new AT-AT walkers. We quickly get a feel for how the Jabiimi people actually viewed the Jedi, as they know close to nothing about them. Alto and his freedom fighters see them as nothing more than murderers and monsters who kidnap children and deny that pain even exists. Therefore, we see Alto taking pleasure in inflicting as much pain upon the Jedi as possible while he fights for his planet's freedom. Among the Jedi sent to the system, there is of course Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anakin is assigned to a task force comprised of Padawans for most of his duration on the world, a group of Padawans that Anakin had known quite a while, and now was going into war with. To make a long story short, the Battle of Jabiim was absolute chaos, mostly for the Republic. Alto Stratus was a brilliant tactician and a savage warrior who was strong enough to beat several Jedi in single combat amid the battlefield havoc. Explosions were going off everywhere. Republic walkers were falling left and right, if not to the missiles and the mines, to the mud that they had covered, and the mud that now comprised most of the rainy world. Obi-Wan and Anakin, along with the other Jedi there, continued to push forward on the front, managing to take a valuable position. However, one of the clone commanders points out that they have been stretched far too thin from their home base, and were now overreaching. The storm that plagued the planet was disturbing their sensors and communications and slowing down their supply lines. They were sitting ducks. The commander proved to be accurate as Stratus launched the surprised attack on this isolated base. During the ensuing battle, nearly 9,000 clones would die, and Obi-Wan ordered a few Jedi with him to take cover and to hide within a downed AT-AT walker. Right as Anakin was about to join him, the damaged walker suddenly exploded right before his eyes, and as far as the young Padawan knew and was concerned, he had just watched his master Obi-Wan die. He didn't even get a chance to process this before their position was completely overrun and he was forced to retreat with the remaining Padawans. As the Battle of Jabeam raged on, the Republic began losing fronts left and right, being completely driven out, and many Jedi were falling by the hand of Stratus personally. And finally, the final Jedi General fell, leaving the isolated group of Padawans completely alone as the very last Jedi alive on the planet. The young ones knew that they were all staring at death and looking it right in the face with no way to try to contact home base, and they all prepared for one final stand against Alto Stratus's main force. This whole time, Anakin was just about ready to give up his life for the Republic as he assumed that his master had. The whole day looked incredibly bleak to him, and although the Padawans each showed their own form of courage when facing their imminent deaths, a few of them were slowly slipping into darkness. The bleak outcome of this battle and the war was now weighing on the young minds, and Anakin was not immune to this effect. But suddenly, Anakin receives an encrypted message from Chancellor Palpatine, who said that they managed to break communications through the storm and have ordered a full evacuation of the world of Jabeam. Anakin's savior, Palpatine yet again, with Palpatine personally telling Anakin that he needed him to lead the evacuation. Of course, by doing this, Anakin would be abandoning his Padawan friends to die alone when he alone would escape. But the other Padawans had also heard the message and urged Anakin to fulfill the duty given to him directly by the Chancellor. And so, Anakin rode off, forced to leave his friends behind to an absolute death. And though he didn't watch them all die, he didn't exactly have to. He just knew it. And as expected, not a single one of these Padawans survived, though in their final moments, they managed to kill Alto Stratus. Back at the evacuation site, Anakin arrives only to discover that the Republic was only able to spare a few transports, just enough to either load the clone troopers or the Jabeami Republic loyalists, but not both. They were running out of time, and they were completely out of options since a storm was closing in, and if they didn't leave right then, they would be stuck on Jabeam for another 4 days. The Navy officer that delivered all of this information to Anakin told him that he had to make a choice, as Anakin was the only Jedi left, and therefore was the only one who could give orders on what to do. Either load the clones or the Jabeami people. There was no compromise here, and Anakin decided to take the option that was best for the Republic. Anakin selected the clones. The clone forces were spread thin on countless worlds, and they needed every last trooper. At this, the leader of the Jabeami loyalists was enraged and accused Anakin of proving Alto Stratus right about the Republic and right about the Jedi, to which Anakin replies that it was their home and therefore their war to win. Tensions boiled over as the leader raised his blaster and announced that he's commandeering the Republic transports by force in order to acquire safe sanctuary for his people. Finally, all the pressure and grief of his losses came crashing down on Anakin at once, as he lashed out with the Force and choked the leader while commanding him to tell his men to stand down. Anakin Skywalker, once again, gets a taste of the dark side. Quickly though, Anakin snaps out of it and releases the leader while trying to apologize desperately. But of course, the leader is having none of it and continues to accuse the Jedi. The sad scene ends as Anakin and the Republic troops load up on the transports, while the Jabeami people throw rocks at him, and Anakin is forced to watch as he leaves the world, and more people to die. After leaving Jabeam and returning to a Republic outpost planet, Anakin met up with Master Asherad Het in an effort to try and heal some of the wounded men. Master Het directed Anakin towards a dying Jedi, who just asked for some help in soothing her before she knocked at death's door. However, Anakin instead tries to save her by his own way, by using the Force to massage her heart, hoping that it will properly begin functioning again, trying to apply what he learned from the Force choke, and she succumbs to death in agony despite Master Het's best efforts to stop Anakin. Once more, Anakin fails to save a companion, to save a life. From here, the young Skywalker continues to grieve for his master Obi-Wan, though later we do indeed find out that Obi-Wan had survived and was in the custody of Ventress, which Anakin would discover during his next assignment. Nevertheless, Anakin Skywalker was never the same after the events of Jabeam. We saw in the Clone Wars TV series what happens when Anakin believes that Obi-Wan is dead. He almost immediately begins going to the dark side, in fact. This whole experience is pretty heavy and is undoubtedly one of the worst experiences that Anakin ever had during the Clone War, right next to watching his mother die and having his arm taken off by Count Dooku. The Anakin we get in canon is a lot more lively and driven, going down the dark path only when things take a turn for the absolute worst. In Legends, however, more experiences like these continue to change Anakin and push him towards being more and more unstable until he finally snaps in Revenge of the Sith. To be quite honest, I wish we got more bleak stories like this in the Clone Wars series, something to really drive home the difference between the younger Anakin and the Anakin that we see in Revenge of the Sith. War stories are inevitably dark and tell a narrative of how people change because of them. Anakin's whole character arc hinges on the fact that even though he's supposedly the chosen one, he fails just about every single time when he wants to save a life, causing that inner fear to continue to build up inside of him. The problem here with Obi-Wan's alleged death on Jabim is this: it didn't matter whether Obi-Wan survived or not. Anakin was still deeply affected by the fact that he had completely failed to stop it from happening. This further fuels his desire to become more powerful as to save the ones that he loves. All of this, of course, culminates into him joining the dark side to save Padme. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Palpatine had orchestrated only for there to have been a few transports available in order to force Anakin to make the difficult decision that he did. Anakin's big decision proved once and for all where his loyalties truly lied when push came to shove. He would much rather serve the betterment of those he cares about, in this case the clones and the Republic, rather than sacrifice for others, even if they are innocent and loyal to him. This is a major foreshadowing of the fact that Anakin doesn't hold true to the Jedi ideals and what they perceive to be a greater good, and this experience would further drive Anakin to question exactly what the greater good was, and if the Jedi are the ones suitable to protect and decide what is. But anyway, my friends, this is why Anakin was never the same after the Battle of Jabim, right after the kickoff of the Clone Wars. I do hope that you all enjoyed our breakdown, and we want to hear your thoughts on these events as well. And also, are there any other notable battles of the Clone Wars, or battles in Star Wars in general that you would like to see a breakdown of? Until next time, my friends and fellow acolytes, may the Force be with you, and I hope to see you soon.